Welcome back, guys. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to refit your overdrive to your gearbox. Let's go and take a look.
Are you listening? Damn.
Right then, guys, before we get into this overdrive fitting today, I just want to go through something that's been brought to my attention about last week's video with the gearbox. Now, it's been highlighted to me that our lay shaft has been fitted the wrong way round on our gearbox. Now, that's obviously the gearbox that we inherited with the car. It's previous to us because we haven't worked on the gearbox, so I just assumed that it was correct. Now, if you go back to last week's video, you'll see on the top of the gearbox when the adapter plate is removed, there's a half round shaft just below the third motion shaft. Now, that half round, which is protruding, should be the other way round and should locate in the bell housing itself to stop the shaft spinning round. Now, what I think was happening is that half round was sat into the kind of oil gallery, if you will, in the adapter plate, which is why the adapter plate sat down okay. But again, that could have been contributing to our leak. So what we've done is we've stripped it all down to bits again, and that lay gear has been removed, flipped round and pushed back in, and it now sits into the bell housing nicely and is flush to the box. So we've regasketed it all again, nicely sealed up, tightened up, and now we're ready to fit the overdrive. But that's why these YouTube videos are so good, guys, because things like that we weren't aware of have been highlighted to us. And you know, I'm not going to go pulling the old video down and hiding it, brushing it under the carpet. We've found it, we've been honest, we've rectified it, and now let's fit the overdrive, get it full of oil, and then we're in a great place and we can move on. Let's do it. Now, I can't take credit for this. This is majority of what I've taken from the workshop manual, and also a little bit of jiggery pokery from Dan Howell's Classics, who's been very helpful. I'll put a little link to his website down below because, as I say, he's a good guy. You will need a dummy third motion shaft to line everything up in your overdrive, some lock wire, and some Vaseline. Right then, what are we trying to achieve? Let's pop over to the book and have a look. Now, we've obviously got our third motion shaft, which is a dummy shaft, which is going to enter the overdrive here, which obviously the gearbox joins this way. Now, what we're trying to do with the dummy shaft is line up the unidirectional clutch, number 16, and the annulus itself. I'll show you inside the gearbox in a minute. These two need to be aligned perfectly, so then you can lift the gearbox on top. If we take a look at the next picture, where's it gone? We can see again what we're trying to achieve. So we've got number 1, third motion shaft, which pushes all the way through deep, and obviously you've got the cam as well that also acts on the oil pump plunger, and it goes through there, through the overdrive, and then, like I say, we need to line up the annulus and the unidirectional clutch in the back. Let's go and take a look inside the gearbox. Right, gasket on, and nice bit of well seal on there to give it the best chance of sealing that it can. Lock wire time. Come have a look. We've got the cam that is obviously span round, sits on a set of splines. Oops, there you are. Sits on a set of splines on the third motion shaft. Now, that will turn round. It's also got a lobe on it, similar to like a camshaft, if you will. Now, if you sit that, obviously if you sit it that way, it's going to be miles away from lining up, and if you sit it with the back of the lobe against the plunger, it's still protruding, so it's still going to impede us. Now, a couple of ways of doing this. The way that I have been advised, the Dan Howell's Classics way, is to wire back with some wire the plunger itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some lock wire probably around here, or maybe underneath in behind the roller, and we're going to wire it back on this plug on the back here, and then when our overdrive gets very close to being fitted, and it's a couple of millimeters away, cut the wire, extract it, and that will push the plunger onto the cam. It saves you having to dismantle the pump and everything like that, and this is the way that we're going to go today. So I'll quickly wire that back and then I'll show you how it looks. Right, it's a little bit better, isn't it? We've taken the tension into the spring and we've lock wired it back around the kind of pump body, if you will. And now we can line everything up. So now it's time to Vaseline. The third thing you will need, Vaseline. Now then, if you read the manual itself, it will say balance cam on top of overdrive and simply pick up really heavy gearbox and lift into overdrive. Now again, this is on advice of Dan Howells. You're obviously trying to line that third motion shaft up with the annulus deep inside of the overdrive, right down the bottom here. So if you balance that on top of the overdrive, it's just one more thing to think about. If you get a little bit of petroleum jelly, Vaseline, put a little bit on the splines, you can then fix it into the gearbox temporarily to stop it sliding down, and it's one less thing to think about. So petroleum jelly, Vaseline on your shaft, cam on your shaft, and remember, lobe towards the overdrive. It's pretty straightforward when you look at it, but also one thing you want to think about is you want the heel of the cam, or the back of the cam, the smaller part, to sit on the gearbox and be closest to the plunger, because if you get it the other way round, the lobe is going to hit the plunger and it's going to be in the way. So be a little bit sensible with the way that you pop the cam onto the box. Let's do it. Pop up on me steps and show you inside. I don't know if you'll be able to see this right down in the bottom of the gearbox, but you can see the annulus and unidirectional clutch. Now ours, as I say, are aligned. They're aligned lovely because we took the overdrive off last week. But if they are not, you can reach in with a long flat bladed screwdriver and you can line them up to get yourself started. There's our 8 springs. Now then, shorter spring inwards, same on all 4. I'll quickly show you what I've done with the locking off of the plunger as well. Take the wire around there, pulled it round the plunger, back round, and then I've gone up and down and round and locked it off as tight as I can. So in theory, when the overdrive is a 1/4 inch or so away from seating, snip and then pull the wire out, which will push that plunger forward onto the cam. Hunky dory, no issues. So now it's time to lift the gearbox on top of the overdrive and see how it goes. You've got your gasket on, your plunger's wired back, you've got your 8 springs on, they're all sat in. Take your dummy shaft, and what you can do is just insert it. And you should go all the way down. Now that will obviously line up that unidirectional clutch and the annulus. Tap him just to make sure that he's gone dead and he's all the way in. And then we can just carefully remove them. Even perfectly straight. And now we can do the same with the gearbox. Gearbox up, flip it upside down, and then take it in nicely. Now what I've done to make things a little bit easier, I've put the gearbox in gear so that when I turn it from the bell housing end, obviously the third motion shaft will turn the same. We've got our cam, oil pump cam, with the lobe facing away from the plunger and the lobe side towards the overdrive. I'll tell you a little bit about that towards the end of the video as well. And also I've got one of the splines on the overdrive pointing at the plunger, facing right at the bottom of the gearbox. Now if I line another one of these splines, corresponding splines, like an outward spline here and an inward spline there, on the box with the bottom of the gearbox, I'm giving myself the best possible chance that when I flip it up, I'm in the right place, if not very, very close. Because the last thing we want to do is to be lifting it up, turning it, lifting it up, turning it on, off, and disturbing things. So let's get ourselves a ladder, because this is a little bit high up for a vertically challenged man, shall we say. Make sure our vise is done up nice and tight so our overdrive isn't going to move, and then we'll stand up, flip the gearbox upside down, pop it onto the overdrive, and if it goes in first time, we're having a great day. Now then, before I flip this up and start to lift it into the overdrive, I'd just like to remind you of that picture that I showed you of the man in the old school 1950s manual who just lifted this gearbox up, held it at full extension and lifted it in perfectly. I think he was quite a strong man, and I don't think I'm going to make it look as easy as he did in that picture, but we'll have a go. Right, wish me luck. I've got to turn the shaft round. There we go. First time every time, eh? Oh. I need to get fitter. That was hard work. That feels like it might have gone on first time. Oh my god. It's done me. Right. Let's have a look at our springs, shall we? We have got 2 at the back, perfect. 2 at the front, perfect. And that little bugger over the back has not sat in, so we'll just give it a little flick, like so. And this front spring, he's just sat out of the nipple just there. Pop, there you go. Right, at this point, we will need 2 plain washers and 2 nuts. Push the gearbox down to the point that you can just get a nut and a washer started. Only plain washers for now, and then what we'll do is we'll tighten the 2 nuts uniformly and evenly, and then march the gearbox and adapter plate down to the overdrive. If at any point it binds, you stop, take it apart, start again and check why. Let's have a go. That started nicely. Right, just taking a brief measurement just to check that we're starting level, and we can start to wind that down now. Nice and evenly, and then when we're about 1/4 of an inch away or so, we'll look to bite the bullet and cut our wire. Right, that is all of 1/4 of an inch or so away, so it's time to bite the bullet, be brave, and cut the wire. Cut the red wire! If this goes wrong, then yep, you got it, we're taking it apart and we're starting again. Now then, we need to hope that if we straighten this wire back out, like so. Sorry for the awful video quality, guys. Should be able to extract. Ooh. Come on. Oh, I'll take that every day of the week. Happy days. I would say we're in the clear now. We've got the oil pump plunger on the back side of the cam, and we're 1/4 of an inch away, so it's 2 flats, 2 flats, 2 flats, 2 flats until he bottoms out. Nuts and washers, whip it off, nuts and spring washers on these, job done. So that's that. Gearbox, overdrive, completed, reassembled, all the gaskets replaced, full of oil, and for now, she's bone dry. Put oil in it yesterday, come back down today, perfectly dry. So we're in a much better position now, and I'm more than happy for this to go back on the car. Now, you may remember I really did stress, make sure you get that cam the right way round. Now, the first time that I put the gearbox together yesterday, I had a little look in through there and I put it wrong myself. So always double check, guys, otherwise you'll have to pull it all apart again and do it again like I had to. Now, what have we got coming up? The dashboard itself, that's going away for paint. That'll be back in a week or so's time, so all the gauges can go back into that and all the switches. That can go back on the car and it can be wired up, and we get a lot closer to turning the key. We've still got radiator, distributor and a few little ancillaries to sort out, but we are very close, guys, so watch this space. As always, if you like today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more from us, don't forget to subscribe. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you again soon. Take care, guys. Goodbye.